what you're probably on about, the late 90s and early thousands, there was still a lot of bullying in football.
Yeah.
And in life. But when you look at it from a different perspective and you have these media outlets to explain it to you, you know, you're never too old to learn. And I've learned a lot, and I've realised that, you know, certain things aren't right. Because I only see it from a great, you know, 20 years of I went in the youth system, I flourished and I played, and then I've got contracts and I've got 20 years. But then most of the boys that I played with, you know, like yourself, didn't go into professional football and whatever. But like some boys didn't because they chose to get out. Yeah. And you think about what happened to them and the pathways they took, and you know, it's I've certainly seen a lot of bullying and a lot of things have been wrong, and it's improved, and that's great.
I was thinking about, and you know, it's funny you say that, because do you remember here everyone used to have a nickname, didn't they? Do you remember? Pasty, Custard, Shane Tolley was a brilliant player. But when everyone ever asked me, well, the best player I ever played with, I always say Shane Tolley.
Really?
He was so good. But he had bad injury, didn't he?
Yeah, he had some bunions on his feet and different things. Yeah, he was a special young player. Him and Jamie Day both came from the south of England, and they were both class. And Jamie actually retired for his back. I don't know if you know that. He was 26, I think he was. He was doing great, and you know, he had big troubles with his back. But yeah, Shane Tolley was brilliant. He lives out in Dubai now.
Does he?
Yeah, he's just become a dad.
Has he?
Yeah.
I'll reach out to him. So I was thinking, I remember the nicknames that everyone used to have. You won't remember what mine was, but like it was Bee-Bobba-Looba. And I was driving here today thinking, is that racist? Like, is that markedly racist that they used to call me? It was Gaffer, they called me that.
Really?
Yeah. Like, I literally thought about it driving here today. I was thinking, oh, everyone's nickname. I thought, bloody hell, my nickname was that. And I was like, because I remember.
I don't even know what that means.
No, I don't. But I remember calling. Was it I or where was the training ground? I hadn't come to training one day, and I had to call the training ground, and he picked up the phone. Oh, it's Bee-Bobba-Looba's on the phone. And I was a bit like, obviously then I didn't think anything of it. But literally today driving, I was like, that's mildly racist, I think.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, times have changed, haven't they? You wouldn't get you definitely wouldn't get away with that now, I don't think.
No. Do you find your attitude's changed since becoming a dad? Like, do you find that sometimes you're sat there going, that's not all right, or if there's a younger player, you kind of almost parent? Because I find it a lot, like the football team I play for now, they're a lot younger, and sometimes I will sit there and I'll have a conversation with one of the lads. I'll be sitting there thinking, I'm not his dad, but I'm like trying to give him advice or talking through a situation he's in, or you know, if he's had a bad game, you get it as a youngster, you're really frustrated with yourself. But
it's good that people are opening up about it, because I think, rewind to when we were young guys at 17, I don't think we would have ever turned around to something, mate, I don't feel good, or I'm not doing so well. But now it's less acceptable. Yeah, it's less of a. I think the one positive that comes out of the coronavirus pandemic is that mental health issues are less of a taboo, which means that more and more people can talk about it, and if the more people talk about it, the more people will get help, and the less, touch wood, people will make that wrong decision and, you know, go the opposite way and go down the suicide route, which is something we talk about quite a lot on here, because I lost a friend to suicide at 21, and we're raising money for Calm. I don't know if you know Calm, they're a charity. It's called
I've heard of that.
Campaign Against Living Miserably, and they're just battling against 125 people a week commit suicide. 75% of them are men. But the one stat that a lot of people don't know is that 33% of those men are new dads. And it's like, what pressure is on these young men that's causing them to either not open up or not be able to, or feel like they can open up, that they have to go and do that. So I think, the one benefit is that more and more people, it's less of a taboo. More and more people can talk about it, and hopefully we can get those numbers.
When you think of a 22-year-old, when you were 22, you would not sit there and talk to somebody in your football team saying, oh, my head's all over the place, I'm going through this. At 22, you just wouldn't. Whereas now they are. So I think it has, to your point, it's made it almost more acceptable to actually speak up about it and show that you've got feelings.
Yeah.
especially like you think back to when you became a dad, and you, Luke, how instantly you change, because all of a sudden you're like, fuck, I've got this massive responsibility now. And obviously the high rate of suicide is probably that part going, I can't go, but who do you turn to, who do you speak to, and you just take it on yourself. It's tough. When you became a dad, how did you feel? Did you go, yeah, I've got this, it's easy, or was you like inside going, oh,
how old were you, Luke, when you became a
31.
So where was you club-wise then?
I was at Panathinaikos.
Okay.
So my first daughter was born in Athens, in Greece.
Wow. Was you trying for kids, or was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We're trying. First time lucky, I think it was. I mean, it's hard. I mean, there's so many layers to being a dad. I just thought it'd be our late nights tiredness. That would be the hard thing. But for me, like maybe that contributes, but I think being a dad in the early stages is not all that it's cracked up to be. I think I said that right. And I've asked, people have asked me advice, I'm going to be a new dad, what do you think? And I've given this one piece of advice, and this sounds ruthless, this sounds horrible, what I'm about to say, but I stick by it because I felt like it with all three of my children, and it's difficult to hear this as a woman maybe, because it's going to sound horrible. I'm building this up now.
Yeah, go on, let's get
but I don't think, like, this is my own thing, and I'm going to use the words that I actually use, not try and dilute it in any way. I don't think I've loved any of the three children instantly. And I don't think that it's something that comes in a few weeks. And all three of them, I mean, the youngest one's only 5 months. But like when you say you love someone, when you say you actually love somebody, I've probably said, and the advice I've passed on to my good mates, and this is exactly how I say, look, you won't love your kid until you're 7 months. It's 7 months. And that sounds horrible, but I say that to my good friends who are asking me for proper advice, because that's how I felt. And I've said that, like, you could say, oh yeah, I instantly loved him and I loved her and all the rest of it, but that's how I felt, and that's how, like, I knew I'd protect my daughters and my son straight away. I knew I'd do anything for them straight away. But to actually feel that bond, you don't for a lot longer than I thought. I'm not going to speak for you guys, but you don't feel that bond for a lot longer than I planned. I thought it was going to be this day, and it was a great. Every time I've had a child, the day is brilliant. I love the day. Such a relief. Yeah. Like it's like a emotional, teary day, and then the few days after, then there's a big come down, and then obviously the breastfeeding starts and things like that, and you just feel. I felt like not wanted, but useless. I felt useless at times, and that makes me feel angry. Yeah. In each of my three children, I felt really angry at times. Where I've like launched bottles across the room while I'm with like the baby or something, or I've punched something because I had to get it out because I didn't know how to, settle the child. Yeah. I didn't know how to whatever. And then I go back to the love thing because it is such a strong sentence. But like I didn't feel that. But then when you do, it's there and it's there forever. Yeah. But like I'm not going to say it's an object, but it was like so surprising because I was like, but I'm this guy who's quite a good guy, and I'm quite a loving guy, and love my family. I'm going to love this child straight away, but I didn't. And I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, maybe do I? But then it came clear over time where they then became responsive to me. So you don't get that attention straight away from a baby, and obviously it learns quickly that the mum is the one who provides the milk. Maybe it's just a nature thing. And a scientist could tell me that I'm like, fine, that's normal. But that's how I felt. And that was the hard part, hard part of finding that way of getting that connection. And it doesn't matter how many night feeds you do and things like that. It was a matter of time. And then all of a sudden you got something back and you made that connection. So I found it hard. I found it frustrating. And I still do now at times, especially when I rush things. When I rush things, I get things wrong. Yeah, and that's what annoys me.
It's not alien though. I hear that a lot. So I remember one of the very first podcasts I did. He was saying the same. He said the baby was born, and actually he saw it as a burden. he was a young guy, 24, I think he was. He's now having to give all his money to this kid or spend all his time with his kid away from his friends, not playing football. And he said it was 3 months where he felt like he didn't want this kid. He said, and then it was almost like you said there, instantly, where it just went boom. And it was like, actually, like, now I get it. Now I need to stop being selfish. And the interesting part about that was that when we did that podcast, the amount of dads that messaged me after and was like, do you know what, I felt like I was weird because I didn't have that instant connection. But now hearing other people say that they didn't have it also, actually makes me feel a little bit better, because I'm not weird. It is more normal than you'd actually.
Well, everyone's different, aren't they? Everyone's different. Everyone goes through their own emotion. You can't read a book and say, that's how you should feel, that's how you parent. You learn from, like you say, you pick up things from your own upbringing, and then you have all these different emotions. And on that day, it is the best day ever. But on that day, it's like, right, it's fight or flight. You go, right, okay, yeah, I love it, that's it, brilliant, come here. Or you go, oh fuck, what am I going to do? What do I do with that?
Yeah, it's so easy as well, isn't it, Adi, to say, I'm so in love with the baby. You hear it all the time, and you just think, oh yeah, like, maybe you are. Like, you see that more with women, and the men don't usually say anything. And I think to myself, I bet they're feeling how I felt. Not maybe on the first day, because it's like great, and then after a few weeks you think, yeah, it's all right. Like, I'm going to work and stuff like that. I haven't made that bond with it.
Yeah, I've got a friend. I won't name him actually.
Come on.
But so my boy was, I don't know, 10 months old, and we went for lunch in Knutsford somewhere, and he came out. It was just me and my boy and my mate, and because I've not really been out in a while because I've obviously got a new baby. The missus was at the horses, so I had him for the day, and we went for lunch, and he sat there looking at me going, "Do you love him?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "But why?" He's like, "What's he done?" Like, what's he? And he's not joking. He genuinely just couldn't understand why you would love this kid. He just couldn't understand it, and I was like, I can't explain it, because for me it was instant. Like I talk about it a lot, but I think in the first 2 weeks when we have the paternity leave, I used to have him on my lap, and I just look at him and I think, fucking love you, mate. And that's just I had that straight away. But
really,
yeah, but it's funny that he's just like, I just don't get it. Like,
how old is he?
36, same age as us, 36.
Right, okay.
Yeah, he's nuts guy. I'm trying to get him on the podcast, but he's not a dad.
Yeah.
But his view on the world is
fair play.
It's hilarious.
Probably shouldn't be a dad.
So you sort of waited till 31 to you. Was that at the point when you felt like you was ready to have a kid, or? Why? Because did you say 3 brothers and a couple of sisters? Did you say?
No, just 2 brothers. Just two older brothers.
Two older brothers. So 3 of you.
Yeah.
Did you always know that you wanted to have kids when you was growing up?
No, not at all. I was one of them saying I don't want to get married, and I'm not really feeling anything for kids.
Yeah.
I was very career driven, but also like enjoyed my free time doing this and doing that, and I was kind of single for quite a long time, but. I think what it was, and I think this happened to a friend of mine as well. My oldest brother, who was quite old as well, for when he had his first child, he had April. I think when, not quite old, but like, I think he was maybe 30, 31, might have been the same age. I think when he had April, things changed, because that was the first baby in our family that was like, really close to me, and I just saw it, and I remember thinking, wow, like, staying at my mum's house when I was back from Greece one time, and she would come trotting in the house, and I'd be like, wow, like, that's pretty cool. Yeah. But it's all about the person you meet. I think for me, I've met girls, when I've been in relationships, and I think it's the one question I've always asked myself, like when people say, do you like her? And I have to ask myself, do I want children with her? Yeah. And if it's not a straight away yes, then I think that's kind of a problem. And when I met my partner now, I knew instantly, and we were pregnant after 6 months of meeting each other.
Wow.
But I'm sure a lot of people thought, it was a bit of a mistake because they've only been together 6 months, but I can assure you it wasn't. We had that conversation, and like I said, it did happen really quickly, but we got pregnant straight away.
Do you think that is there an element of obviously wanting to stay single, not really wanting to have kids? I don't know this because I'm not in the public eye, I've not been a professional footballer, but is there an element of not trusting people because people would maybe want to take advantage of money, or girls, like when you're younger, you see the dolly birds that all they do is chase footballers. Is there an element of that from you thinking, I don't know if I want to get involved with that when you were younger, I'm talking about?
Yeah, definitely from the start. I mean, people would tell me about that, and I was probably overprotective of myself. I'd meet people and purposely not follow it through because I weren't quite sure, and then I'd date girls and I'd have that negative kind of outlook on it. Yeah. And I was always cautious of who I properly took out and went on dates with and things like that. Eventually you have to let go. It's one thing, I probably regret that because I think that I was a bit closed shop. People would meet me and I'd think, I'm not really going to give them everything, not going to give them myself, my real personality because of that. But then as you get older, you realise that you've got to trust people. That's something my dad says actually a lot. He always says it. He says, I know you've got to be cautious of everybody. You've got to trust some people and throw yourself into it and say, yeah, I'm going to work for you. Or I'm going to, and that kind of came to light eventually. And thankfully it did. But yeah, you've got to be careful. I mean, it was always my worst nightmare. I mean, my worst nightmare was to get a girl pregnant that I weren't in love with and I weren't going to be with. My worst nightmare. And thankfully that never happened, kind of. But it's difficult because I didn't ever think about having kids, and I weren't ever I'd love a family and things like that. Late 20s, weren't even thinking of that really. And then just bam, all of a sudden I realised it was something important to me and I wanted to go for it.
So one of the things we always ask all dads is, do you remember the moment you were told that she's pregnant? Do you remember that? Where you were?
Yeah, I've got the pictures on my phone. Yeah, it was mental. It's the craziest time. I mean, me and Jess had only been together 6 months, like I said before. And I was staying at her house. I was back from Greece, and she told me that she was late. She told me she was late, but with that look that I'd not seen before, and I was like, "Oh, you're being serious?" And I was like. So I threw it back on her saying, come on then, we'll go and get a test. Calling her bluff, thinking she'll be like, no, it's fine. Yeah. And she went, okay, come on then. So then at 5 to 11 at night, we're trying to find somewhere with a pregnancy test. And we got back and I still didn't even think, I thought, this just be a bit of an adventure, a bit of a late night. I think we've got a McFlurry on the way home. And all of a sudden it would come back and she was pregnant and flipping hell, guys. I've played in some strange football matches, so that was a weird moment because I wasn't scared. I was happy. Yeah. I was happy but surprised, and I'd never thought about that moment in my life. Yeah. And I was like, wow, what? And I was so happy. Honestly, I'd show the pictures of me a few minutes later, and if they're any good at their job, they'll put it up on the screen right about now. But
take a note.
But it was flipping crazy, and the next day I was looking after my niece with my mum, and I just had this big smile on my face, and I just knew everything was right. And I say that to the young boys that we work with, YDP, and the ones that are 18, 19. I was like, just make sure you be careful, because you want to get it right when it comes to kids. You don't want to just rush into it. And I know things can work out for the good, and it has done on many occasions, and kids are born and it's a great story, but you want to make sure you as a person are right when you have that kid, because when you do it at the right time, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Were you one of these crazy couples that waits to find out what they're having, or did you have the scan and know what you were having?
Yeah, we knew. I think the first scan, I said I didn't want to know, and then second scan, she was getting a bit bored and agitated. And in Greece, they do things a bit differently. You have a lot more scans, but we found out. We found out on all three. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got one boy, and I'm only allowed one shot. So my wife's like, you can have one. I had to strong arm her into having one. She put loads of barriers in the way. So it was I got to sort of, you're 31. I was like, yeah, I want to have kids now. Yeah. She's like, I don't really want to have kids. I was like, well, this is a problem. And she's like, right, okay, well, you need to buy a house. We need to get married. And at the time, my job wasn't great at the time. I was thinking, I don't know I'm going to do that. Bought the house, got married. And then on the wedding night, I was like, right, no more pill. She's like, no. I was like, nah, that is it. And then literally 2 months later, we found out she was pregnant.
Brilliant.
But then she was like, you're only having one. That's it. I was like, if I'm only having one, it's got to be a boy. Like, please, I got to have a boy. And then when we had the scan, I burst into tears and I found out I was having a boy. Yeah, because I was so, not that I did, like, it's bad to say that I didn't want a girl, but every lad, I think, wants to have a little boy, I think. Just to, we want to play football with them and do all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I did. I burst into tears when I found out I was having a boy. But yeah, I'm still trying to convince her to go again.
I had 2 girls, so obviously when we got pregnant with a third, I was like, right, it's going to be a girl. Let's start thinking of girls' names. So in the back of my mind, I openly said, I hope it's a boy. I did want a son. I didn't care because I knew what an amazing 2 daughters I had, and if I had another one, it'd be great. But you do, as a lot of guys say, they want that son. I don't know, to continue the family name maybe.
Yeah,
but
exactly. Yeah.
It's something I don't know, and also to have that link with, because I think I was always scared because I didn't have sisters, and we didn't have many girls in our family apart from my cousins. But I was always scared when I saw that we were having a girl first. I was like, I didn't know if I'd have that connection. I didn't know what they'd be into. I'd be like, I'd never picked up a Barbie in my life, like all that sort of thing. But then you just get it, and you just, it all comes together. So when we had the third and I found out it was a boy, I was like, I was so happy. I was like, wow, like I've had the perfect few years here. I've had 2 healthy girls, and I've had now going to have a boy. And this is like, gift from somebody.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I had that feeling though. When you're not sure, the first few weeks, is it a boy or a girl? I used to be like, but I don't know what you do with a girl. Like, what do you do with you think you sort of know what you'd have to do with a boy, but yeah, I was a bit like, I have no idea what I do with a girl. Now I'm like, yeah, I want a girl. So I keep saying to her, just imagine, you could go horse riding with your little girl, get her into all that. But yeah, it's not happening.
Did any of you guys have any complications or anything when you had babies?
No.
Like births and leading up to it?
I remember finding, so a bit like you, when we found out, I remember seeing the pregnancy test, and my actual words were, fuck off, you're having me on. Because it was just such a... Because I always wanted children, always. And when that moment came, I genuinely thought she was winding me up. I thought, that's a really good joke. Like, pretend you're having a kid, well done. Yeah. But I remember seeing that, and my actual words were, fuck off. Really? And she was like, what? I was like, you haven't, like, do another one now. Yeah. And we went out, we bought more. Flurry, not McFlurry as well. It just seems like a standard thing. Calm your nerves. And yeah, but from the birth, like, my son was born very quick. He had water birth, and it was very quick from her waters bursting in Costa in the hospital to give him birth. I think it was like an hour. It was very quick. Wow. It was rapid, but there was no complications. I just remember that that feeling of, oh no, like that's it. That is no longer just a bump. It's an actual human being. Like, I'm responsible now. So it's a case of, right, get yourself in check.
What about you, Luke? Did you have any complications for yours?
With the births, no. All 3 of obviously, like the first one was in Greece, which was mayhem. Because not mayhem, it was absolutely brilliant. We actually went private over there because we just made that decision. It's a bit different. The NHS over there isn't as good, basically, and it's not actually as expensive as you think. Weird Panathinaikos fans seeing me in the hospital on the day of the birth, they're trying to like get little bits and bobs, and it was a bit surreal because some people aren't as professional as maybe they should be. But yeah, in all, it was a great 3 births. But the reason I say that is because on my third, which is Leo, obviously we found out it was a boy. My boy's
called Leo.
Is it? Yeah. Brilliant. And we just had this strange scenario where I was driving home from training one day and Jessica rang me and she said that, look, I've been for this scan. I couldn't make the scan and the blood tests and stuff and she'd had a call from the hospital and they said, look, your son's in like a high risk category of Down syndrome. So it was like
tough call.
Yeah.
And I got home and they said, we called the doctors again, and they said, look, your son's in the high, they do an equation where they'd have like the age, the blood test results and things like that. And they say that, they can work out the chances. So basically we were in the high risk category of Down syndrome. And I remember that journey.
I can imagine it's tough because it's your unborn child, isn't it? It's a whole world of complication.
What point in the pregnancy is that?
That's after about 4 or 5 months. Yeah, quite far gone. So that journey was very tough. That journey was the toughest ever because I was an hour and a half from home, driving from London. Then I had the phone call because I didn't know whether she got the wording wrong. Obviously, she was a bit upset. I heard them say them words the same. And they said, look, you can go, there's 3 options you can have, basically. And we talk about whether you love your son. I remember thinking for the next, this boy is so real to me, which is different to the other 2 because I hadn't really thought about it.
Yeah.
But this scenario just brought this, I think it's like, I always felt so lucky. Like, and I was thinking, I knew I wouldn't be lucky forever. Yeah. Because this is like, and already on that journey, I decided that obviously I knew what was coming if the results came that way, that like I wanted to keep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my partner was the same. And I just remember thinking loads of things about other people who go through this and go through that. And it must be so, so difficult. And then we went through tests, and you pay for a special test where they take the blood and they can know for sure. So they test it not just for Down syndrome, but for other things and all that sort of thing. And I think it was 10 days you had to wait, and that was tough. Yeah. Because, like I said, it was a lot of things going through your mind, and you made this decision anyway, and we'd made that decision that we wanted it, and we loved it. Like, it was there. And the results came back, and it was, it was perfectly healthy. It was fine, and like that was another huge day. But we went through that, and we didn't even really talk about it after, because it was like, oh, that's gone. Yeah. Like what were we worrying about? They gave us the stats. Like we've got, I can't even remember the number, 1 in 100 like chance of having it, and. I used to think of a roulette wheel and how many times the ball hit the same number 3 times on the trot. So I try and do the maths in my head of what the chances are, So, thankfully it didn't turn out that way, and it was difficult because it was like I was always thinking of all these like people who I know who's had complications at birth, and I was like, wow, like I realise now in that moment why people start charities, why they do so much good, because there's scenarios that go on people's lives. And like straight away I was thinking, what can I do? What can I do? And
it's completely out of your hands as well. I remember a conversation we had before Dexter was born, and it was these tests, because when I met my ex-partner, she had already had a baby. She had a really bad pregnancy. She was born back to back, and it was just a whole world of hurt. And when we found out about Dexter, I remember she didn't want to go through with it. She didn't want to have Dexter. And then there was conversations about, we need to get these tests done because he could have Down syndrome. It could be this, could be this, could be this. And I'd never experienced any of that. And I always had this sort of thought process in my head, and this image of parents with kids with Down syndrome, and you see them out in the park, and you see it, and you just see the struggle. You see how other people, especially back then, how people would automatically assume that's wrong. That they're not getting on well. That you can't mix, you can't play. And I remember that conversation because I was quite abrupt, and I said to her, "There's no way you're getting rid of my son. Like I always wanted a boy, so from the start I was like, it's my son. I think we called him Peanut or something. But I was like, there's no way you're getting. There's no way. And I remember having conversations trying to convince her, basically sell my side. No, I'm going to do this. And you know what? If he's born with any complications or Down syndrome or anything, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I remember at that age going, no, doesn't matter. Whatever comes out, that's it. He's mine. She's mine. I'll be that protective, overprotective parent. Yeah. And it would not matter to me. And I know there's a lot of people out there that it does, because of the complications that come with it. It's your lifestyle. Everything has to change. And there's charities, like, I love those kind of charities that they really do help parents that are going through it. Because nowadays you get this stigma, don't you? You get a stigma. If you see, there's a kid that goes to the same preschool as my son that has Downs. And you know what? Every time we're in the queue in the morning, he comes over and he's stood there. He's about this, he's tiny, and he stood there and he's looking up at me, and he's trying to talk, and he's just happy, so happy in his little world.
Yeah.
And Dexter, I remember once him saying very loud, you know what kids are like, no filter. He was like, why does he look like that? And why is he talking like that, Pappy? He calls me Pappy. He's like, why is he talking like that, Pappy? That's not right. And I remember thinking, how do I have this conversation with a 4-year-old? Like, he is okay. He's just different.
Yeah.
That's him. You're different to him. And I remember the parents were stood further back in the queue. And I just thought, I wonder how they feel. I didn't have the balls to go and ask, because Dexter was very loud, very abrupt, gets up from me. But I thought, how have you guys had it? There's me complaining at certain times through Dexter and his upbringing. And I'm thinking, wow, like what's your journey been? How tough has it been for you guys?
I know a family that have a Down syndrome kid. Honestly, the life that kid has is unbelievable. Like the stuff they do with her. She's always super happy. So like every time I see their photos, I'm always like chuffed for them, because they are. I think you sort of said it there. You know, some people have a problem like with it themselves, but being a parent, and I've written about this a couple of times, is that you almost you need to leave the ego at the door, right? Parenting, when you become a dad, it isn't about you anymore. It's about your kids, and it's about providing a life for them that maybe, I don't know, it's a cliche that you want to give the kids the life that you didn't have, but I think some people that struggle with parenting, they're just too selfish. You can't be selfish as a parent. It's all about, it's no longer about you, and it's about your kids. And if you can't take the shutters off and separate yourself from that, then I think you'll struggle being a parent.
I think, like, you know, we've all mentioned us our sons playing football and stuff like that, and I remember always thinking, when I thought I'd be this perfect parent, that, you know, I'd help him because I'd be able to tell him this, tell him that, or tell her how to do gymnastics and tell her that and tell her this. But then I've realised after having children that let them be free, let them do what they want, and let them figure out if they're any good at sport or not. And the reasons you want them to play sport is to enjoy it, not to be the professional or to be at the Olympics and things like that. Yes, that would be amazing, but there's tiny minuscule percentage of people who do that, you know, go on and be professionals and think it's unlikely, very unlikely. But you want them to love sport, and I've seen so many lads, and I've played with so many lads that ended up hating football, not playing football, and I believe it was because of the parents. And I do see it now sometimes. I see it now with different people that, you know, speak to their child in the wrong way, and I think I just want them to let them be free and enjoy it, because that's why you want them to play football. Of course you want them to be great, but you just want them to enjoy it. Like my eldest goes to gymnastics. That's the first class that she's been in. Yeah, and I have to really kind of pinch myself and say, don't get involved in the session. You're not a gymnast. and like let her enjoy the experience of using the hoop or something simple. Don't think, oh, she's got to be on the beam, she's got to do this twizzle and that. Like they've just got to get on with it, and they got it. So I've really learned, or I'm trying to learn at the moment, and force myself to not be that parent. And as I know that the next few years they're going to be joining clubs and they're going to like different things, and whatever they like is fine. You know, dance, ballet, whatever, football if they want. It could be the girls that like football. He might hate it, and that's fine because you just want them to be happy. But you have to be. I see parents, and I think people get it's confusing for people that think if I don't shout and tell them what to do, that's me not being supportive. But it's actually the opposite. If you sit back and let the coach, who you're probably paying, who's probably experienced, let them do their job. And I believe that the child will have a better time, B, they'll be a better player, or you know, whatever activity it is.
It's like there's enough. You put enough pressure on yourself. I think back to being at 16, 17. When I walked through the door at 16 here, I just went like that. You know, I crumbled really because I sort of walked into a room. For the academy at the time was unbelievable. Some of the players that they had, but you'd all come up through the ages. You're all quite a close-knit group, so coming into that group was quite difficult. And I think if you then have somebody else on the back of that trying to put pressure on you like a parent. I mean, I didn't have a dad, so my dad wasn't around. But you know, if you then got your dad putting pressure on yourself as well, you can see why people struggle to actually deliver. You'll have seen players that have been phenomenal at some clubs, but then go to a new club and maybe can't deliver the same that they were doing before. And is that one of my questions actually was, how much do you think football is mentality, or your mentality and versus ability? What do you think is the difference there?
Well, I think you need both to be a professional. Everything, you need both, but there are players. I will say this: there are players who don't have a lot of mental stability who become professionals because they're such good athletes and skillful and things like that. And then when they come into the professional game, the pressure's 100 times more than academy football. You've got fans, you've got money, you've got jobs to think about, and then you see them crumble. And I've seen that on many occasions, and it is hard. It's sad because then you get very tough managers who could break a player. And like what we said before, Adi, like it was probably tougher 15, 20 years ago, but wrongly. Yeah. Because you'd get players who probably thrive off that, but then you'd get a percentage that you don't even talk about now because they left the game or they went to play semi-pro or lower because they couldn't handle the pressure, the top level, and that's because they didn't have that mental stability. And
that's true. You play against some players, even non-league, all of that, and I still do it now. I play against some players and I think you're amazing. Like you should be playing a lot higher. You get chatting to them, you find out they used to play academy or youth team here, there, but they left the game. You don't get into the whys with it, but you kind of know, having experienced players, and you've seen players leave teams. But it's weird that you, even now, you play against guys you think you should be playing professional level right now.
But they don't want to because they want the relaxation, no pressure, and it might have come from a family member or somebody so early pushed them on, and they pushed them out of doing what they love.
I remember a guy. Again, I won't mention his name, but he was a pro at Grimsby when Grimsby were fairly decent when we were younger, and he quit to become a bricklayer and play Saturday, Sunday football because he was like, I'm earning more money bricklaying, and I just love playing football with my mates. He just, like I say, fell out of it. So we sort of run over a little bit, but just one of the things we always like to know: was it a difficult conversation with the names of your kids, or was that relatively easy?
To be honest,
did you have a say?
I did have a say. We vetoed a few each, but first one, we took our time, and then I think the second two we rushed them massively. We didn't have, and to be fair, by the third we ran out of names. We'd gone through them all, but yeah, we're not one to mess about. We thought the names quite early on. You know, halfway through the pregnancy, I think all three were sorted, so it wasn't a big deal. We tried to get a Greek name for Sienna. She was Athena or Sienna, and that was about the dilemma we had. But the other three, the last Leo is, you know, it's easy to spell, it's quick. Hopefully, giving him an advantage, more time doing his test if he has to write his name at the top. Yeah. But no, it's pretty simple, to be fair.
Yeah, my boy's called Leonardo, but my wife calls him Leo. I call him Nardo. She hates Leonardo, so we compromised on Leo.
Right. Okay. Yeah. People think the house is Leonardo, but we've just put Leo on birth, and no middle name as well. No. Just easy. We actually doing the registry.
That was a quick test.
Yeah, and we couldn't think of a middle name, so we said, like, let's just leave it.
Luke, do you want to tell us about the Youth Dreams project that you do? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so 7 years ago we started a company, myself and Luke Kennedy, who is here at Peterborough United and played professionally for Rushden. We had the conversation about starting something, and it escalated into many ideas. So we go into the schools, we do the curriculum, the PE in a lot of schools around Cambridgeshire. We do all the half-term camps, and we kept coming up with ideas. So like it went to birthday parties, obviously the half-term camps came about. We now work in youth offenders places like prisons for young people. We do a lot with, we actually have a football academy now, which is separate, which we have 6, 7s, 8s and 9s. We have a scholarship program. So basically people associate with football because of me, but it's actually multi-sport, you know, spars, dance, swimming, music. We have a music teacher who goes into the schools, very special needs schools, which we absolutely love. And it's just escalated over the last 7 years. We throw a hell of a Christmas party. If you're ever in the area, I'm sure Adi will get invited if his boy signs for YDP under 6s. But yeah, it's just something that I'll be honest, I didn't plan on doing when I was in my 20s. I'm not, you know, that phrase of, I wanted to give something back. But now I started it and I absolutely love it. I'm addicted, you know. We have a little tuck shop at the venue that we use a lot. And there's so much to be done. Yeah. You know, there's so much to be done in this. We do so much good work. We have Diddy's football on a Sunday morning, which has been one of the first projects, which is football for 3 to 6 year olds. And, you know, they learn discipline and the rules and basically, you know, getting out there in the fresh air, doing activities. So it's kind of just rolled on. We still actually do things in Greece, in Athens, where I lived. And we've just moved over to Oxfordshire. So we're active over there too.
I've seen that. That's just
so it's pretty cool. There's so many things to deal with, and like when we spoke earlier about the greats of Alex Ferguson, when we, you know, have new staff and things like that, I always think of things that he does and he did to try and, you know, imply into our YDP culture, if you like.
Yeah.
Judge Dexter goes to that. He's just started,
right?
And all week, all I get every single day. Am I going football tomorrow? Am I going football tomorrow? All week. It doesn't matter what else he's done. And when it comes to football on the Sunday, he's just buzzing. And that's a credit to the coaches there, because they're so good. I remember coaching out in the States, and I remember having a young age group, and I thought, what am I going to do here? Because they're not interested. We ended up playing games which sort of incorporated football skills and stuff. But now seeing Dexter do it, and how much he loves it, and the interaction between the coach, and it's amazing what you guys are doing. It is incredible, because there's so many football teams and things you can take your kids to. I took Dexter to one way before YDP, because then lockdown and stuff, and I always thought, he's going to love it. He went there, and I could see at 3 years old he was bored. He wasn't getting anything from it, so stopped doing it because I didn't want him to start hating going and, you know, be that what we spoke about.
Yeah, definitely.
So we stopped, and then we went into his 4, hunted around for these places, and everyone I asked said, have you heard of YDP? Have you done this with YDP? And I was like, at the time I was like, the hell's YDP?
No, we're lucky because we've got a really good coach at that age, James D'Souza, who I think some people are just naturally good at talking to that age, and it's not necessarily how strict you are. You know, he sometimes speaks quietly, and you can see the lads leaning in to try and listen to what he's saying, because that's his way.
Dexter calls him coach. Like, at 4 years old, he's like, can I go and give coach a fist bump? And I'm like, go for it.
It's funny because it's almost I talked about this quite a lot, but I remember as a 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old, we used to go to this place called the Adventure Playground in Grantham, where I grew up, and it was just a place where you could do lots of different activities like swimming, archery, football, everything. And there was I think from 10, local government just checked out of doing that for kids, and it just disappeared. So then what happened? The kids then just fall out onto the street, started getting in trouble. I'm from quite a rough estate in Grantham, and the kids, when we were up to sort of 10, 11, we were sort of kept on the straight and narrow by going to these clubs and going to these groups. And then you saw the void that it left when the funding stopped and the places had to close. It was unbelievable. Like, the kids went off, they ended up in prison and all sorts of places. So it's good that does fill a gap that the governments or the local councils aren't providing, because they should be, really. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, look, I've never ever said that we're trying to produce professionals in any of the sports we do, but people don't realise that sport is there for everybody. It's not there just for the ones who are good. And it's not just there for the ones who are naughty, it's for every single person, you know. And what it creates is an atmosphere, and it creates who you are. It created who I was, because I spent more time at Peterborough United Academy than anywhere else, you know. And it allows you to meet people, make friends, make memories, you know. And that's why they have different tiers of football, because they have the bottom tier, because some people aren't as good as others. They're not naturally as good, and they're never going to be as good. But you can still win the bottom league, and you know, be lifted up on someone's shoulders and things like that. Any sport, and it's just great. It's just totally addictive, and obviously you're both welcome to come to anything that we do.
I'm just waiting for the YDP men's team. I'm waiting for that.
Oh, you didn't get a shout last week?
Vets team. In fact, Jonesy did that.
Vets team, I think.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I can still cut it.
Yeah. So I get to, you know, meet loads of parents, and they're great. They're phenomenal. Their parents are what make it, because at the end of the day, they bring them, they get involved, and, you know, they want to be involved. And I do with my daughters and my son in the future, but, you know, it brings people together, and all for the good. There's no negative aspect to it at all, and the more that we do, the better. And like I said, the parents have been so supportive in and around the Cambridge area. You know, they can't do enough to help us, and we obviously hopefully give back by, you know, looking after their children and making them better people. So it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, it is. And I think I'll finish on, for me personally, is that with that football on a Sunday, I actually look forward to it all week, because it's me and my boy. We get to go. But how I see his face light up when he wakes up on a Sunday morning, knowing it's football. Yeah. Because he's so excited to go, and when he's there, he's just on it. But he has such a good time, and that's the thing. He leaves there, and I leave there, really happy, because it gives you something to do as well. You have an opportunity to go and do something, and the fact that he leaves there so happy, and just to see that look on his face, like I would give that every day of the week, I would pay whatever I could or whatever I needed to see that on his face. Yeah. And that's just come from that one little thing that YDP have created because of that atmosphere. And I'm talking to parents never met before, and having a chat, and the kids bring you together. The kids are having a laugh, and then they might be partnered off, and then you're helping as a parent with their parent, and it's just this whole social aspect, which we've lacked for the last 2 years, year and a half, 2 years with COVID. All of a sudden you're out, everyone's happy. It's just, honestly, it's such a good thing to do. And I better be called up for the next team.
You have a trial.
Luke, last question, mate. Any more kids in the future?
No, I think that's more than enough, to be honest. I think at 2 we planned to have a break, and then somehow we got pregnant again. But I think that's enough. Okay. You know, I think that's enough logistically. You know, the car situation worries me anyway. But no, I'm really pleased with the 3 that I've got, and you know, hopefully we can handle them. At the moment, it's tough. You know, mine are 4, 2, and 5 months. I've been told it's a tough age for them to be because you've had them so quickly. But
someone I interviewed referred to that as the hurt locker. So it's like those first 2 years. You're in the hurt locker, like it's tough, and they had 2, and it was like, let's just bang them straight out, stay in the hurt locker for as short as possible and just done.
That's how
you just gone hurt locker.
Yeah, that's our way. I mean, while we're on this podcast, my phone's vibrated about 6 times about calling me, so it's nice to have a bit of a break. But I'll be home soon, Jess. Yeah, but it's been great. I can't wait to see what they're like. You know, it's loads to look forward to, school and things like that.
Yeah.
There could be a part 2 podcast that we do, and we're all moaning like hell in about 5-10 years time, but we'll see.
What happened?
Listen, Luke, appreciate you coming on, mate. It's been brilliant sort of catching up with you, because it's been like 20 years since I think I saw you last. But yeah, look, I really appreciate you coming on and speaking to us.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, brilliant. No, it's enjoyable. I've never done a podcast like this before, but it's nice to, open up about being a dad. And thanks very much for having me on.
No, thanks for sharing.
Appreciate it.
No, thank
Cheers.
you.